Hello and welcome, everyone. My name is Hannah Job. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Sienna Naturals, a company that I created in 2012 with my sister-in-law, Issa Rae, to deliver high-performance hair care for healthier hair and scalp. Our products are designed for textured hair and combine nature and innovation. I'd like to welcome you to today's press conference, where our speakers will be explaining the key elements of the 4 bills that make up the federal Safer Beauty Bill package and why these bills are so important. Your hosts for this press conference are Breast Cancer Prevention Partners and its program, the Campaign for Safe Cosmetics, which leads the movement to make beauty and personal care products safer for all. If I only had 60 words and 60 seconds to describe the Safer Beauty Bill package, I would share that these important federal bills will give consumers and salon workers more and better cosmetic safety protections, will immediately ban the worst of the worst chemicals from our beauty products, will ensure that consumers have the right to know if hazardous ingredients are hiding in their products, and will mandate supply chain transparency to ensure that cosmetic companies like mine receive the essential information that we need from our upstream suppliers to know that they're creating the safest products possible. Before we get started, a few housekeeping notes. The press conference will last about 35 minutes and will immediately be followed by 15 minutes of Q&A. Links to fact sheets describing each of the bills in detail, as well as the legislation we'll be discussing today, will be provided in the chat. Also in the chat, you'll be able to find bios and contact info for all of our speakers, as well as contact info for clean cosmetic industry leaders who are available and ready to be interviewed upon request following this event. We will be muting everyone's microphones, but please feel free to use the chat to share any questions you have for the speakers. Okay, that's it. To get us started, I'd like to introduce Representative Jan Schakowsky to welcome you and provide her thoughts on why this bill package is so critically needed.
Hi, I'm Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky, and I want to thank the Breast Cancer Prevention Partners for all the work that you are doing. I'm the chief sponsor of the Safer Beauty Bill package. Most of us use personal care products, even put some of them on our children. Women use about 12 every single day. You know, our European allies have much more protection for the people who use these products, and we need to do better. I was happy that we made some progress during the Biden administration, but it's clear that we have to do much more. So that is why I am reintroducing my legislation to get the dangerous chemicals out of our products. So I am so happy to be working with you, and I welcome any suggestions that you have. We can make sure that these products that are hurting women who work with cosmetics, women who use cosmetics, that we are going to make the world safer. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Schakowsky, for your continued leadership on these important issues. Next, I would like to introduce Representative Doris Matsui, co-author of the Cosmetic Hazardous Ingredient Right to Know Act of 2025.
Hi, everyone. Thank you all for joining today. And thanks to Congresswoman Schakowsky for leading the charge on this very important issue. I'd also like to thank the wonderful advocates that put together this press conference. You know, we assume that the products we use day to day are safe. The lotions we rub on our hands, the shampoo and conditioners we use on our hair, you know, the perfume we dab onto our wrists and behind our ears. We may not even consciously think about the cosmetic and beauty products we use, because they are so ingrained in our daily routine. But these products contain thousands of synthetic chemicals used to create unique fragrances and flavor profiles. Unfortunately, companies are not required to disclose all of the chemicals they use to create fragrances and flavors. What this really means is that we are often exposed to potentially toxic and harmful chemicals without even knowing it. Some of these hidden chemicals have even been shown to harm our health, ranging from allergic reactions to reproductive harm to increased risk of breast cancer. This lack of transparency in the cosmetic industry disproportionately impacts women, and especially women of color. We as consumers have a right to know about the ingredients and chemicals we are putting in and on our bodies. That's why I'm proud to co-lead the Cosmetic Hazardous Ingredient Right to Know Act along with Congresswoman Schakowsky. This bill would require companies to list all ingredients in their products on the package label and online, where it's easy for consumers to see and understand. And if any ingredient in the product is linked to a serious negative impact on human health, companies will have to share that information upfront and provide website links so consumers can learn more about the risks. Our bill is a critical step forward toward empowering consumers, protecting public health, and addressing risk. I'm proud to co-lead this bill to help ensure that safety becomes standard and not optional in the beauty industry. This bill and the rest of the Safer Beauty package give us back our agency and autonomy to make informed decisions about the products we use. So thank you again for having me, and I appreciate all the attention on this critical issue. And I look forward to working with you all to get these bills across the finish line. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Representative Matsui. It's now my pleasure to introduce Dr. Jasmine McDonald, a professor at Columbia University.
Thank you so much. And I must say, as a scientist, I know that there are thousands of industrial chemicals that are used to create the personal care and beauty products that we use today. This is the consumer's use as well as professional nail, hair, and beauty salon workers. And some of these chemicals have been linked to serious harms in human health and the environment. Now, the European Union, as Representative Jan Schakowsky said, has banned many different chemicals, 2,500 to be exact. This is chemicals from beauty and personal care products. In stark contrast, the FDA, the Federal Drug Administration of the US, has banned or restricted 15 ingredients. 15 ingredients over the past 80 years. Now, this is out of over 10,000 chemicals that are used to formulate a product. So what the Toxic Free Beauty Act is going to do, it's going to introduce doubling. It will ban 18 of the most toxic chemicals on the planet. From Representative Jan Schakowsky's and Lizzie Fletcher's bill, we'll be able to also ban the entire class of formaldehyde-releasing preservatives and orthophthalates. Phthalates are what you smell in your perfumes, or as well as like in your products. Now, this is going to be banned from retail and beauty stores, like what you can buy on the shelf, but it's also going to be banned for professional salon products. Now, some of the chemicals that are going to be banned are such as mercury, which is often found in skin lightening products and associated with problems with the nervous system and brain damage. 2 classes of parabens. This includes isobutyl and isopropyl. And these are hormonally active endocrine disrupting chemicals. meaning that they impact your natural hormonal system and lead to deleterious hormonal impacts. It's been associated with breast cancer as well as reproductive harms. And of course, lead, one of the most toxic chemicals on the planet, which has been linked to brain damage and cancer. It's found as contaminants in a lot of color cosmetics. Now, all we're asking is not something that we just thought of. This is something that 5 states have already enacted. California, Colorado, Oregon, Washington, and Vermont have all banned some or all of these different chemicals. And what we're asking is the FDA to follow these standards, to raise the bar such that everyone across the United States is able to buy and purchase knowing that these chemicals are not in their products. And we're asking this because it's been over 80 years since we've really updated this of concern. Now, some people will tell you that, oh, the dose makes the poison, a little bit in the bubble bath, a little bit in the baby shampoo, it's okay. But there is no safe exposure to a cancer-causing chemical. And not only that, if you're thinking like, oh, I just use it like once a week, the fact of the matter is that endocrine disruptors, even low doses, have biological activity. And we also know that this is not something that you use in a silo. You don't use just that one product. You use multiple products in a daily routine. But that's the thing, it's a daily routine. So it's multiple products, multiple exposures, daily routine for maybe years. And think about their cumulative exposure. But now think about when you were in utero or what you're providing for your child, and the fact that that routine starts really young. So it's long-term cumulative exposure from something that someone will say, oh, it's just a little dose. So what we're trying to do, me as a scientist, but also as a mom, I need this bill. I need it because from the perspective of both being a scientist and a mom, it is important that ingredients with known links to cancer and birth defects and other harms, it shouldn't be in the products we use. We shouldn't be a chemist to know what not to use. And these are things we're lathering on ourselves and our children. And so the Toxic Free Beauty Act will get them out. Now I'd like to give the floor over to my colleague, Tia Tomlin, founder and executive director of My Style Matters.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Dr. Donald. As Dr. Donald mentioned, my name is Tia, and I'm a 2-time triple-negative breast cancer survivor. When I was diagnosed with breast cancer, it didn't just leave physical scars. Rather, it opened my eyes and made me question everything. I started to read all of the labels on my products, from my lotions to my deodorant and even my hair care products. And what I found was shocking. Many of the ingredients that were found in the products were actually linked to serious health issues like hormone disruption, reproductive harm, and even breast cancer. And what was even more disturbing is that some of the chemicals weren't clearly listed on the labels at all. So I was left to do my own research just to feel safe using the products. Now, in my research, I learned about several harmful chemicals, but one that stood out the most was a group of chemicals called phthalates that are often hidden behind the word fragrance. And sadly, studies have shown that these chemicals actually make breast cancer cells less responsive to chemotherapy. And that raised a red flag for me. To know that a chemical in products that we use every single day, like perfumes, lotions, and hair care products, could actually be working against the very treatments that were meant to save our lives. That was unnerving. And fragrance is found in everything. It's found in mostly all of our beauty products. So this is why the Cosmetic Hazardous Ingredient Right to Know Act matters. It's about making sure we know exactly what we're putting on our bodies so that we can make informed and safer decisions. This issue is especially urgent for young women and Black women particularly. We're seeing more and more breast cancer diagnoses at younger ages, and Black women under 35 are 2 times more likely to be diagnosed with breast cancer and 3 times more likely to die compared to other races. Yet beauty products that are marketed to us often contain some of the most toxic ingredients. Now, that's not a coincidence. That's a public health crisis. And for those of us who have already gone through cancer, we're constantly being told to live healthier and reduce our risk. But how can we do that if companies don't tell us the truth? We shouldn't need a science degree to protect ourselves. And as survivors, we deserve more than pink ribbons. We deserve protection, prevention, and the truth about what's in our products. So this legislation gives us the right to know. It gives us the right to choose and the right to protect ourselves and even the generations that's coming after us. So I am asking you to stand with us and support the Cosmetic Hazardous Ingredient Right to Know Act, because transparency isn't optional, it's survival. We have the right to know, and knowing just might save your mother's life, your partner's life, your children's life, and even your own life. Thank you. Now I would like to introduce Mary Wynn, Policy and Research Manager with the California Healthy Nail Salon Collaborative.
Thank you, Tia. And now I will discuss why the Cosmetic Safety for Communities of Color and Professional Salon Workers Bill is so crucial for these two already vulnerable communities, which are among the most highly exposed to toxic chemicals due to the cosmetic products marketed to them or commonly found in their workplace. In California alone, 82% of Vietnamese women work in this industry, many of whom are immigrants or refugees with English as their second language. This comprehensive bill funds research, resource materials in language, education, and outreach, and the development of safer chemicals to protect the health of women of color salon workers. This bill also authorizes the creation of two centers excellence on cosmetic safety for communities of color and professional salon workers, serving as a central clearinghouse. These centers of excellence would provide resources for creating and disseminating materials, coordinate networks, and deliver public outreach and education, focusing on the health and safety of professional salon workers and communities of color, including girls. This bill is needed because salon workers are continuously exposed to toxic chemicals in the products they work with 24/7, and as a result, suffer from high levels of asthma and respiratory problems, infertility, and other maternal and reproductive health concerns. Working up to 10 hours, 6 days a week, nail and hair salon workers are exposed to a range of hazardous chemicals from professional personal care products, and the cumulative impact of these exposures over time is a cause for concern. In a population-based study for cosmetologists and manicurists in California, researchers found that women who work in this industry are at greater risk for adverse birth outcomes and maternal health complications such as miscarriages, stillbirths, birth defects, or difficulty conceiving. And additionally, those working with acrylic nails were more likely to report health problems such as nose irritation, allergies, skin irritation, stress, pain, coughing, nausea, difficulty breathing, asthma, as well as miscarriages. The combination of these hazardous chemicals, inadequate access to information, lax regulatory standards and enforcement, and a large immigrant workforce with cultural and language obstacles underscores the need for stronger federal cosmetic safety protections for people of color and professional salon workers. All people deserve to work in an environment that is safe and healthy. This bill protects communities of color, immigrants, and salon workers who are at higher risk of experiencing health disparities and poor health outcomes because of where they work and the products that they use. Now I would like to introduce Dr. James Rogers, Director of Product Safety Research and Testing Consumer Reports.
Thank you for the introduction. Consumer Reports is a nonprofit organization that for almost 90 years has advocated for the cause of safer products, provided scientific-based testing data on potentially dangerous products, and supported consumers making wise and safe choices when they shop in the marketplace. We also advocate for changes in the federal and state regulations that afford more protection to consumers and help assure that the products sold are known to be safer because of this oversight. Our testing includes personal care products, some of which, with the passage of the Cosmetic Safety Protections for Communities of Color and Professional Salon Workers Act, would be regulated at the federal level by the Food and Drug Administration. We at Consumer Reports are especially supportive because this bill will cover artificial braiding hair, a product that is important and essential to the Black and Brown communities that use them for their own beauty and cultural choices. Once this legislation is in place, a standard will be set for the presence and the levels of harmful chemicals in these personal care products. Manufacturers that do not meet an established Food and Drug Administration determined safety standard for these products and who still insist on selling their products would be required to apply a warning label on their products and on their website to notify consumers that this product does not meet the FDA standard of safety. At Consumer Reports, we know just how toxic synthetic braiding hair and the materials used in them can be because I led the testing and reporting on 10 synthetic braiding hair products. And we found extremely hazardous chemicals, toxic to human health, presented in all of them. 3 of the products that we tested contain the chemical called benzene, a known carcinogen that has been associated to acute myeloid leukemia. 9 of the 10 products we tested contain lead at concerning concentrations, which in adults can cause kidney damage, cardiovascular disruption, reproductive damage, and brain damage. In children, lead can lead to brain and nervous system damage, learning disabilities, behavioral problems, and developmental delays. All of the products contain chemicals called volatile organic compounds, such as acetone, which can contribute to respiratory irritation. But what was extremely concerning was the fact that we could not get any federal agency to sit down and discuss our findings of the presence of toxic chemicals in the hair products and discuss possible solutions because of an apparent lack of regulatory authority over artificial braiding hair. We were shocked to discover that no federal agency has jurisdiction over the safety of products such as synthetic braiding hair, even though the product is widely used by Black and Brown communities, mostly women, but especially children. As a scientist, I am especially concerned because I believe as we continue to investigate these products, and their safety and containing hazardous chemicals that we will find even more potential health-related issues. Additionally, as a father of 2 daughters who have used these products on a regular and consistent basis, I am very concerned that they have unknowingly exposed themselves to potential cancer-causing chemicals. I am thankful for the efforts of the numerous advocates that are trying to get these bills passed, because I know and believe that we can certainly do better. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jim. I completely agree. For me and for other Black women, this issue is especially urgent. And as Tia mentioned, this is a crisis. At Sienna Naturals, we often say hair care is health care because we know how important the hair category is to our customer and how critical it is that we offer a safe product free from these toxic chemicals. The truth is, Black women and other women of color, as this panel has pointed out, already suffer from higher levels of exposures to unsafe chemicals due to the beauty products that are heavily marketed toward us. In fact, a recent study conducted by the National Institute of Environmental Health Sciences showed that Black women who frequently dye our hair face a 60% increased risk of breast cancer compared to an 8% increased risk for white women. And that's why, as a mom and a CEO, creating safer products that Black families can trust is critical to my mission. And it's also why so many other business leaders in the clean cosmetics industry are telling Congress, we understand it may seem unusual for business leaders to advocate for increased regulation, but these issues are deeply personal and central to our companies and our values. And clean cosmetics companies like ours, we're willing to put our customers' health first. And these are companies, in the hundreds willing to do this. We are business people, but we're also mothers, fathers, daughters, sisters, aunts, uncles, and too many of us have been impacted by breast cancer and other diseases and serious health conditions that are on the rise, due in part to the toxic chemicals found in our beauty and personal care products. I myself lost my mother to breast cancer 11 years ago. And as the founder of a thriving clean cosmetics company, I assure you that these bills are not anti-business. Our company makes and sells safe, non-toxic products and personal care without using the chemicals that would be banned in the Toxic Free Beauty Act. We are living proof that it is possible to have a successful company that makes and sells beauty and personal care products without unsafe ingredients. And we're not alone. The clean cosmetics industry is the fastest growing segment of cosmetics because we're providing consumers with safe, non-toxic products that they are actually demanding and looking for. However, other large and small companies continue to sell beauty and personal care products that contain these chemicals quite simply because they can. And that's why the bills the speakers discussed today are so urgently needed. And that's why my company, Sienna Naturals, is supporting the Safer Beauty Bill package. So on that note, I want to say thank you to all of our wonderful speakers and thank you to our audience for joining us today. I hope you've learned something and I hope that you will stay for the Q&A and learn even more. And now I will hand things over to Janet Noodleman, the Senior Director of Program and Policy at Breast Cancer Prevention Partners and the Director of Breast Cancer Prevention Partners Campaign for Safe Cosmetics. Janet?
Thank you. Thank you, Hannah, so much. And thank you to today's speakers and to the members of the media and the public that have joined us for today's very important briefing. And thank you so much to Representative Schakowsky, Fletcher, Matsui, and Presley for introducing the federal Safer Beauty Bill package. So we received a number of questions in the Q&A that I'm going to ask the speakers, but I would love any members of the press, if you have additional questions, please add them to the chat. And then I will go ahead and be monitoring it and I'll ask your questions in real time. So let's kick this off with a question for Hannah. Hannah, you said that your brand, Sienna Naturals, does not use any of the chemicals that would be banned by the Toxic Free Beauty Act. Why did you make that decision voluntarily before any federal legislative mandate told your company you needed to do so? And why are you supporting legislation that would ban these toxic chemicals from cosmetic products, even though your company doesn't use any of them?
Yeah, for me, I mean, I always say the story of Sienna Naturals goes back to my childhood, where I was raised in a family that valued natural, clean living ahead of the trend, even that we're seeing today. And yet and still, my mother passed early and untimely of breast cancer, and that had a profound impact on me personally. And so at Sienna Naturals, we're formulating without these chemicals because it's the right thing to do.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thanks so much for that. All right. Now I have a question for Dr. McDonald. So the question for you is this. The FDA is decades This is my question. How would you describe the state of US federal regulation of ingredient safety compared to the EU or even some of the individual states that have been banning toxic chemicals from cosmetics quite enthusiastically over the last couple of years?
Yeah, I will say that, we are behind. The European Union has a preventive approach when it comes to health. And so they've banned over 2,000 chemicals that are in personal care and beauty products. The US has banned 15 in over 80 years. And then with the introduction of the Modernization Cosmetic Regulatory Act, then we were able to have stricter regulations with the first regulation in over 80 years. And certain states really grabbed onto that. Like, as I mentioned, there were 5 different states, including like Washington, California, Vermont, and they created stricter guidelines. But we still need the FDA to truly commit to saying that these chemicals cannot be in these products. It should not be a cherry pick all for states to make that decision. It should just be a federal policy.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Dr. McDonald. I'm going to grab a couple of questions from the chat now. I see Martha McCulley, who's covering this issue for Goop and also for Katie Couric, asked, what is the history of this bill package? When was it last introduced? And what was the first time it was introduced and did not pass? All right. So the answer to that question is this is the third time that this bill package has been reintroduced, needs to be reintroduced every 2 years, which is the length of the congressional session. So the first time that it was passed was, let's see, 2021, 2019, or the first time it was introduced was in 2019. And it has not passed, which is why the bill package has been reintroduced. In this last update, the bill package was changed in order to reflect changes in the science, changes in the market, because the market has created safer alternatives to some of the chemicals that are being banned by the Toxic Free Beauty Act. And it was also changed to reflect, as Dr. McDonald just said, legislative activity at the state level. The states of California, Oregon, and Washington each passed pretty comprehensive cosmetic chemical bans in 2023. And then the state of Vermont followed with banning another 17 chemicals in 2024. Okay, so moving on. I see a question here for Tia Tomlin, which is, it sounds like one of the bills focuses on protections for women of color. You talked a little bit about that in your remarks. Can you just speak more to the issue as to why this is important?
Yes, thank you for asking that question. You know, women of color and as well as professional salon workers, we're at most risk because a lot of the products that are being marketed to us have some of the most harmful chemicals found in them. And when you think about Black women, we spend significantly more on beauty products. As a matter of fact, we spend $7.5 billion a year and buy 9 times more hair care products than any other demographic. So with that, we're more likely to be exposed to these products that are containing the toxic ingredients.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thanks so much, Tia. Okay, here's another question in the chat from Meg Duff from Chemical Watch. Hi, Meg. I noticed that there aren't any Republican co-sponsors for these bills yet. What bipartisan engagement has happened so far? And is there a real path forward during this legislative session or next? Well, that is an excellent question. The reason you don't see any Republican co-sponsors so far is because the bill package was just reintroduced yesterday. And so the co-sponsors that you see are the original co-sponsors that signed on to the bill package within the last just few days or so. So it will be circulated further. My guess is we will see some Republicans signing on to this bill package. And the reason why is because in my 20 years of working on this issue, I can tell you that exposure to toxic chemicals in the beauty and personal care products that we use every day as consumers and as salon workers do not discriminate based on party affiliation. This is an equal opportunity offender in terms of the exposures, again, the chemicals, the toxic chemicals in these products. So Democrats and Republicans alike are impacted by the problem. And we know that Democrats and Republicans alike really care deeply about this issue. Certainly at the state level in California, for example, the bill that banned the entire class of PFAS chemicals from cosmetics that was signed into law in 2020 by Governor Gavin Newsom was passed unanimously. in that legislature. And that's been the case across the board in legislatures around the country. And we're seeing Republican members of Congress very interested in this issue. All right, let's see. Here's a question for Dr. Rogers. What do consumers want to know? What do consumers want to know when they pick up a personal care or beauty product off of store shelves today? And if this legislation passes, how will it change what's on the store shelves for the average shopper?
Well, in our conversations with consumers, what we learned is that they want to have some assurances that when they go into a beauty supply store, order online, that the products that they're going to use for their personal care journey are safe, that they have been tested, that there's some indication that any harmful chemicals are not in the product, etc. And so one of the things that I mentioned that number one, we don't have a federal agency overlooking some of these products. We need the FDA to include, especially artificial braiding hair and the products that are derived from them. We need a federal agency that is running the show that says these are the chemicals that are not allowed. If they're there, this is the cutoff. We need recall authority at some point where we can get those products off the shelf if they're proven to be contaminated with chemicals. And I think that consumers will support that because they really, really, really are concerned about many of the chemicals in the products that they're using on a daily basis, and especially for children. I mentioned in my talk that there are a lot of kids that use artificial braiding hair, and the use of these products and chemical contamination could have long-term effects. And so they really want safe products on the market.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that. Okay, here's another question from Ronnie. This is for everyone. She asks, what are the chances of getting this package through the current Congress? Another excellent question. I think I'm going to take a stab at that. Well, interestingly, the Secretary of Health and Human Services is very interested, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is very interested in the issue of toxic chemicals in food and food safety. And why that matters to this conversation that we're having here today is many of those same chemicals that he wants to get out of food and food packaging are the same chemicals that are in beauty and personal care products, like, for example, phthalates and styrene. And so we have not yet made the case to him, but we do think that because we've been busy working on this bill package, but we think when we do, he's going to be very interested in what we have to say. And so having the administration's support of this bill package, of course, would signal to his party in Congress that these are bills that they should be interested in supporting as well. Okay, let's see. We've got a question here for Mary, and that is the cosmetic, let's see, Safety Protections Act for communities of color and professional salon workers. Talks a lot about protections for salon workers. Why is this an important issue? You spoke a little bit about it in your remarks. Can you speak more to the issue?
Yeah, thank you for the question. This is definitely important for the nail salon industry, for the Vietnamese manicurists who are working in this industry, because they are, jam-packed oftentimes in the salons with very little ventilation, exposed to harmful chemicals in the workplace throughout the day. And so this bill is definitely important to, provide the necessary resources and educational materials out there for folks to better protect themselves and learn about the chemicals that are in their products, as to avoid purchasing or using harmful chemicals that can impact their health. Many of the nail salon workers tend to have or sorry, not tend to have, they have English is their second language, and so some of these resources or some of these resources and ingredients lists may not really make a lot of sense for folks. And so knowing how to navigate that, reading that and knowing what the damages or harmful impacts are can help them better protect themselves and help us as community organizers be able to relay this message to them so that they know how to better navigate through these through these products that they use and hopefully opt for better products that are not as harmful or have no harmful chemicals at all.
Thank you. Thanks for that. And one thing that I want to add is we're aware that the bill introduced by Representative Schakowsky and Ayanna Pressley from Massachusetts, cosmetic safety protections for communities of color and professional salon workers, also requires manufacturers to make safety data sheets, the SDS sheets that salon workers depend on to inform them of both the identity and the hazards of the chemicals that they're working with, available in multiple languages, including Spanish, Vietnamese, Chinese, and other languages upon request. All right, I see another question here from Meg. It's a question for Dr. Rogers. And she asks, does the Consumer Product Safety Commission not have jurisdiction over the safety of synthetic braids? And if not, why not?
We asked both, actually. We went first to the FDA and said, we have these results. Can we talk to you? And they said, well, you may want to check with the CPSC. And we checked with the CPSC and they said, this is under our jurisdiction. So we got kind of passed around like a hot potato. I would say that under the Food, Drug, and Cosmetics Act, that this is under the FDA's jurisdiction and not the CPSC. The CPSC tends to be more product oriented, and this we consider a cosmetic. It is in your hair, is on your scalp. And so this is like any other thing that you apply to the surface, such as lipstick or eyeshadow or anything. It is a cosmetic. And so we believe the FDA should be the ones that are regulating this product.
Yes, and I was really surprised to hear the FDA say to you when you called them and asked about this topic, when they said they did not have safety, or rather, I'm sorry, jurisdiction over the safety of synthetic braids, because they do have jurisdiction over the safety of wigs. And
Yeah,
of course, those
yeah,
product categories are so similar, why
yeah.
they would throw up their hands and say, sorry, not us, check with the CPSC was really mind-boggling to me.
Well, one thing, Janet, too, is that what we're additionally concerned about is that if there was let's say there was an acute problem, because what we're talking about is a chronic problem over time, exposure to these chemicals in these synthetic braiding hair. If there was an acute problem, then they could execute a recall. Like, let's say people put the braids in their hair and they like fell over and ended up in the hospital. That doesn't happen now. And so they could say, well, if it's really bad, then we can do something. They could say that. But just in general regulatory, which we say testing, making sure these products are safe, they're not doing anything that we could find on their website, talking to insiders, et cetera. So
Exactly. Just so people
mm,
understand the difference that Dr. Rogers was making between acute and chronic health conditions at the Campaign for Safe Cosmetics, we talk a lot about long-term chronic health conditions like breast cancer, like reproductive harm, like infertility, like learning disabilities, because for decades, the only thing that the cosmetics industry looked at were acute reactions like eye irritation
mm.
or rashes, or things like that, which of course are a concern to allergic reactions are of concern to consumers, but consumers also care whether or not they're exposing themselves, their bodies and their babies to long-term diseases and serious health conditions.
But what's so interesting, though, real quick, Janet, is that we also have acute reactions. If you read our article on this braiding hair, we had people that would say they would put the hair in and they would have to take it out the next day because of scalp irritation, the smells, the odors, etc. That's an acute reaction. You're getting a reaction in less than 24 hours. And so there are acute reactions. We just can't associate it with maybe cancer, for instance, or, something like that.
Got it. All right, well, here's another question for Hannah. Critics often argue that more regulation stifles innovation. As a clean beauty leader, what's your take on that?
I would actually say that regulation will force innovation in this instance. When the European Union banned 2,500 chemicals, it didn't destroy their beauty industry. Their beauty industry is thriving. It sparked reformulation and the creation of safer alternatives. And it would also allow for these safer alternatives to be more affordable. Whereas now some of the innovation we invest in at Sienna Naturals is priced much more expensive than the chemical counterpart, the toxic counterpart. So I think it would create more innovation and it would allow a more level playing field.
Excellent. Thank you for that. So here's a question I'm going to answer rather. And the question is to the speakers, are you concerned that the federal government's current deregulation agenda will lead to a decline in standards for the cosmetics industry? And if so, why? And the answer to that is yes. Actually, we're all very concerned about the deregulation agenda that we're already seeing take place, massive layoffs within the FDA's Office of Cosmetics and Colors has in part led to the FDA missing its own deadline now four times for issuing a rule to ban formaldehyde from hair straightening products. And this is an issue that they've been studying since 2011, since the National Toxicology Program identified formaldehyde as a known human carcinogen. So they proposed a rule to ban formaldehyde in hair straightening products first in April. They missed their own deadline. They extended the deadline, missed the deadline in July, extended it again, missed the deadline in September of 2024, extended it again, and most recently missed the deadline in March of 2025. So that's a really good example. Another example is MOCRA, the Modernization of Cosmetic Regulations Act of 2022, required the FDA to issue good manufacturing practices. They have missed that deadline to do so. And they also missed a deadline that MOCRA directed them to issue a rule to identify and require the labeling of fragrance allergens. And they missed that deadline as well. So yes, the deregulation agenda is a real problem. And another question, which I'm going to answer, is why is this bill package even needed? Given the passage of MOCRA in 2022, why do we need the Safer Beauty bill package? And the answer to that question is this is a very important one. MOCRA did a lot of really, really important things. It gave the FDA, for the first time ever, the authority to recall harmful products off of store shelves. The FDA had that authority for food and drugs. They did not have that authority for beauty and personal care products, and now they do. It also required, for the first time ever, cosmetic companies to register their facilities, their products, and their ingredients with the FDA. Prior to that requirement, the FDA had no idea how big the universe of cosmetic companies' products and ingredients even was. Now companies have to report serious adverse events with the FDA. And as I mentioned, they have to follow good manufacturing practices. So these are all really, really important things. But all of those key components only brought cosmetic safety regulation into the 21st century. It created a floor for cosmetic safety, not a ceiling, because MOCRA did not direct the FDA to ban or even restrict any of the hundreds of toxic chemicals that we know are in beauty and personal care products. Out of the 10,000 industrial ingredients that manufacturers use to make these products. And that's where the rubber really hits the road for consumers. Consumers care about the safety of their products, and MOCRA did not address that issue vis-a-vis a statutory direction to the FDA to do more about that particular problem. And that's a big reason why the Safer Beauty Bill package is needed, as well as the issue of transparency. MOCRA was silent on the issue of ingredient transparency and supply chain transparency. That's the information consumers need to know their products are safe, and manufacturers need to know that they're making the safest, or need to have rather, to know that they're making the safest products possible. Okay, I think I see one more question from Martha McCulley. She might have the last word. I'll check to see if we missed anything else important. Martha asks, when will this package be voted on? When does it go to the House? And does it go to the House floor first and then the Senate? Okay, that's an important question in terms of legislative process. This bill package was only introduced in the House. I know that there are a number of senators that are interested in introducing companion bills. That would have to happen for the bill package to move in the Senate, but those conversations are happening right now. And in terms of when the bill package will be voted on, the first thing that has to happen is the bill package has to be referred to the House Energy and Commerce Committee. That didn't happen because it was just introduced today, but it will any day now. And then the Energy and Commerce Committee has to schedule a hearing on the bill and a markup of the bill for it to move forward in the legislative process there. So let me just throw the floor back to today's speakers and ask any one of you if you have any final comments that you'd like to make, answer any questions that weren't asked, or just leave a final thought or word in the minds and ears of our attendees of this press conference.
I guess I will say, we often think of this as a female, like this is a woman problem. But I just want to be clear that this is an everyone problem. These products are used on your male young children all the way up to your male adults. And there has been associations with hair dye and prostate cancer. So this is not just a female problem.
Thank you. That is a really important point. And we also know it's a problem affecting our daughters and our sons, who boys are experiencing higher rates of birth defects, hypospadia, undescended testicles because of their mom's exposure to phthalates and other endocrine disrupting compounds, and also girls, particularly Black girls who are experiencing precocious puberty, early puberty, because of their exposure to endocrine disrupting compounds. Okay, I see a good question I think that Tia can end this conversation with, if you don't mind, and that is, what can and should consumers, especially consumers suffering or recovering from serious health conditions like breast cancer, do to protect themselves from unsafe chemical exposures in their beauty and personal care products?
Yeah, there's a few things that we can do. I would say consumers can and we should take the necessary steps to educate ourselves. So that will be one thing. And that's going to help us to make those safer and informed decisions when we're making our purchases. Another thing would be to utilize some of the apps. So there's some really good apps out there like Claria and Skin Deep that actually will flag these chemicals of concerns that are in our cosmetic products. We should also vote with our pocketbooks, by patronizing those companies that actually care about us, that are making the products that are safe for us to use, whether it's beauty or personal care products, and also companies that are voluntarily disclosing their fragrant ingredients, because that's something else that's important. But I would say this, beyond all of these things that we can do as consumers, and at the end of the day, we deserve a government that actually protects us. And no one, as I mentioned earlier, none of us should have to be, a chemist to actually try to understand and decipher and read these labels to be confident in making our purchases that are not only safe for ourselves, but even for our families. So this is really why we're asking, consumers to band together and call Congress and ask them to support the Safer Beauty Bill package, because this is, again, necessary. It's about our survival.
Thank you, Tia. That was a wonderful, wonderful way to end this press conference. I want to thank Hannah first and foremost for emceeing this event. You did a wonderful job. I want to thank all of our speakers who were so articulate and so provocative with their comments. I want to thank both the members of the media and the public for attending. And I want to say also to the press contacts here, I just put in the chat a list of clean cosmetics industry CEOs and leaders who are available for interviews. You can contact BCPP's Director of Communications, Erica Wilhelm, Erica with a K at bcpp.org for interviews. Thank you all. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Make good and smart purchases, and please support the Safer Beauty Bill package so there will be safer beauty for all. Thank you. Have a great day.